Hey everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Today we'll be looking at a fully balanced headphone amp and DAC, the SMSL C200 Pro, coming in at $200. And I'd like to thank Ayoshida Audio for gifting me this unit. Spoiler, I really like the C200 Pro. So I emailed Ayoshida and asked if I can purchase this unit to keep it as my reference for the $200 price point. And they went ahead and gifted it to me, so you will see the paid advertisement banner above. And thank you Ayoshida, I really appreciate your support of the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel as well, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Now let's take a closer look. The styling of the C200 Pro takes me back to some of the much older products, like this Q5 Pro DAC amp with the little silver ring around the encoder and the exposed screws. And while the build quality is excellent for the price, it's a very solid piece, I would have liked a cleaner, more modern look. On the front from the left, we have our headphone outputs. The first output on 6.35mm single-ended. Next to that, a 4.4mm Pentacon balanced out. Then our encoder, and it's a push button as well as turn. Finally, a small display. On the rear, again from the left, we have our IEC inlet, a Bluetooth antenna port, USB-C in, Toslink optical in, and digital coax in. Next are outputs, one set of single-ended on RCA, and a set of balanced on TRS, which can easily be adapted to XLR. Now onto a walkthrough of the menu system. I'll tap the encoder to get out of standby. And a single tap scrolls through the menu. First we have our inputs, and then we can turn here. So I'll start with USB, Bluetooth, optical, coaxial. Then another tap gets us to our filters, and we have ESS filters 1 through 7. I prefer filter 2. Next are DPLL, and 4 is default. I leave it on 4. Next is our USB class. We have audio class 1.1 or 2.0. We have our backlight 1 to 8. And then we have our headphone out or line out. I would have loved an all as well, maybe on the next model. Now we'll see these 3 dots because I don't have any signal coming into the unit. And let me just connect via Bluetooth. And playing a file from Tidal, we can see LDAC. The remote control is great on this one. And I'll show you what these buttons do. Hitting the center button gets us into our menu, and left and right will change our options, while up and down will change the settings. Then we have input select, output select, mute, and volume up and down. As for specs, the C200 Pro is a slight upgrade over the last model, the C200. The DAC chip used in the C200 Pro is the ESS 9039 Q2M versus the 9038 Q2M used in the previous model, capable of up to 32-bit 768 kHz PCM and DSD to DSD 512. That's on USB, and 24192 on SPDIF. Bluetooth 5.1 with up to LDAC. It uses 4 OPA 1612 op amps, and the headphone outs give you up to 3 watts per channel at 16 ohms, with single-ended out at 2.5 volts and balanced out at 5 volts. And if you know me, I really would have preferred the more standard 2 volts on RCA and 4 volts on balanced, but bringing the volume down to 95 will get you those voltages. As for those balanced outs, you won't be able to use a TRS to XLR adapter, as those TRS ports are too close together and they just won't fit. What you will have to do is use a TRS to XLR cable, and then you're good to go to balance out to your preamp or your amplifier. And I'll put a link to this cable down below. I want to say it was around $16. THC plus N is at greater than -120 dB, and signal to noise at greater than 125 dB. On to testing. At first, I set up the C200 Pro as a DAC only in my den setup. I sent the C200 Pro signal via Toslink from my Cambridge Audio 851N streamer, and I played Tidal through Roon. I compared the sound quality of the C200 Pro against the SMSL SU1, which is an $80 DAC, as well as a more expensive DAC, the SMSL DO200 Pro. That one's coming in at around $400. And those are DAC onlys, no headphone amp. And the first thing that came to my ear was that the C200 Pro has that ESS sound. I'd say slightly brighter than the SU1 at 3 to 4 kHz, but versus the DO200 Pro, I'd say sharper and not necessarily brighter, if that makes sense. The DO200 Pro extends the highs just as well as the C200 Pro, but has a more relaxed feel. The C200 Pro does pull out more detail than the SU1. It presents slightly more forward and with better focus. The bass is more impactful on the C200 Pro as well versus the SU1, and it's very evident on kick drums. The DO200 Pro on the other hand is slightly fuller in the bass region. The soundstage width and depth do get at the level of the SU1, but don't match the DO200 Pro. The DO200 Pro will give you a wider soundstage, deeper, and with better layering. However, for the asking price of $200, I'd say the C200 Pro gives you great performance out of its line out. Now onto the headphone section. Now here I compare the output of the C200 Pro to the more expensive RO7 Plus SMSL PS200. Now this combo comes in slightly more expensive at $90 plus $200, so now we're at $290 for this setup. The PS200 does use the same ES9039 Q2M, and the RO7 Plus gives you 2.7 watts per channel, so slightly less power than the C200 Pro, however, does feel more powerful. Now a benefit to this stack is that the RO7 Plus has analog ins, whereas the C200 Pro does not. Now I was listening with a pair of Civica Robins, and I didn't have the volume more than 60% on both of these headphone amps, and I had plenty of volume to test. And I really don't think I'd be listening any louder. And for this comparison, I used a new gadget. And this is the Cubilux 4-in, 1-out TRS switch. So what I did here is, I got one line in on TRS from the C200 Pro, and the other from the RO7 Plus PS200 combo. Then on my output, to the line out of the Cubilux, and with my Civicas here, I can now quickly change between 1 and 2 for a really quick A/B, which is much more accurate than just disconnecting the headphone amp from one side to the other. And of course, I send the DAC the same signal with my Toslink 1-in 3-out splitter. So one side of the Toslink cable went to my streamer, and these two Toslink cables went to both of the DACs, so they were both getting the same signal. And I did volume match with a test tone. So here's where I was surprised. Going back and forth between the C200 Pro and the PS200 RO7 Plus stack, I could definitely hear a difference. And it was much more evident than on my home den setup. The headphone amp out of the C200 Pro is remarkable. The detail and sound quality were about the same, but the soundstage on the C200 Pro was much wider. And that's not something that I would have thought before doing an A/B between these two. So going forward, for $200 to $300, my recommendation is definitely going to be the C200 Pro versus this little stack. Now this stack has its benefits. Again, you can add another analog in, whereas you can't on this side. But for a dedicated desktop, little DAC and headphone amp, this guy is just excellent. It definitely is remarkable for the price point. And again, it would also do an excellent job as an outboard DAC for your main system. So I'm very impressed, super pleased with this one. I can highly recommend it. So that's it. That's all I have for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.